Welcome to another episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Today we are welcoming the founder and scientist behind an amazing product called Ferappease. Rodrigo is joining us today, and Rodrigo and I have a little bit of a history together in the industry. And when I first got introduced to this product and introduced to Rodrigo and his story and just the science behind Ferappease, I was enamored from the very beginning. And so I'm so excited to bring him on today to share more about that with all of you guys, his passion behind it, and just the story behind this business within the cattle industry and what it has looked like, the impact that it's continuing to have, and just the science behind it. We get really science technical today, but it is so fun, and Rodrigo does a great job of getting into the weeds of the science, but also making it super understandable and digestible for all of you listeners out there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this episode with Rodrigo. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, and review, share with a friend. We really appreciate it here at the team. And let's check out this conversation with Rodrigo. Rodrigo, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to welcome you on to share a little bit more about Ferappease and the amazing science behind such a fascinating product. You and I were talking before we started just about our history together and how early on in my career I was learning about this product and just how fascinating it is to hear about something so unique and so new. So I would love it if you could just share a little bit more about the company and kind of the start of Ferappease, how you got started, how you found it, and kind of go from there.
Great. Well, firstly, Lauren, thank you so much for the opportunity. You remember that we're part of this industry and that would be interesting for us to be part of your podcast. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, the company is a family company. I mean, the history is interesting. I'm a veterinarian. I was a professor at Cornell for 13 years. I have a PhD in epidemiology as well. So I'm a researcher by training, right? So a veterinarian and a researcher. And when I was at Cornell, I ran a very productive research laboratory, had many graduate students, masters and PhD students, postdocs, visiting scholars from all over the world. And during that period, we published, I think that our group published 120 something articles, more than 100 scientific articles over that period of time. And we also have several patents that are under our name that are part of the Cornell patent portfolio, and some of it are actually licensed by us, by the company. But I founded the company initially around the diagnostic technology that we developed when I was at Cornell. We licensed that from Cornell. The product line is very popular. It's been on the market for over 10 years now. It's called AccuMast. It's basically an on-farm mastitis test. And I named the company after my two sons. My older son is Felipe, so F-E, and my younger son is Rafael. Felipe is 22. He works for us. He's an Aggie. He went to, don't hold that against him, right, Lauren, being a K-State. But Felipe helps us with our key accounts now full-time. Very passionate, loves his job, loves the company. And Rafael is a senior in high school. So this was 10 years ago, 11 years ago when the company was founded. 4 years ago, we made the decision to move out of New York, abandon my academic career. Me and my wife, my two sons, moved to Texas, moved the company here to College Station. We picked College Station as a location because it's in Texas, and we wanted to move to Texas. That's a very business-friendly state, and it aligns with our ideology and principles very much. So we've been very happy ever since we moved to Texas. And the company took off. It really exploded in growth. And Ferappease was given birth as a product here in Texas already. And, I have been studying stress and the consequences of stress during my academic career, and the ability when I moved here that we have a gigantic R&D facility that we built, and we put our energy and effort into developing that product. And, a mixture of hard work and luck we were able to land the final formulation of Ferappease, which we have been commercializing for 3.5 years now. Incredibly successful. To summarize the journey, we launched the product, and at that time we were a company of 5 or 6 employees. The first year we had no marketing budget, no sales force, and have a very good partnership with distribution. Distribution has been a part of this business and a part of Ferappease since the very beginning. But we were able to sell nearly 1 million doses of Ferappease in that very first year, which was incredible. And this year, we're going to sell about 15 million doses of Ferappease in the US alone. And the company is now, Ferappease is registered as a product in Canada, in Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. I'm actually traveling to Colombia next week to launch the product in Colombia. And then from there, I'm going to China, where we are already selling our product. And I'm going to inspect some of our new equipment for our new factory that we're building in College Station in Shanghai. And then from Shanghai, I'm flying to Tokyo to negotiate our distribution agreements in Japan. So we're a global company, and we're proud to say that 100% of everything that we sell is manufactured in College Station, Texas. So we are a proud America-made company, and we want to continue that. As a matter of fact, we're building a brand new factory and our headquarter facilities, offices, and R&D laboratories and all of that in College Station now. So we're expected to move into that new facility mid next year. And when you come to College Station for a football game, you're more than welcome to visit us in our new facilities here.
That I don't know if you'll get me to a football game. I will say your guys' football stadium is pretty great, but I will be cheering for the Cats through and through. So I did tour College Station when I was trying to decide on colleges to go to, but inevitably A&M was not the one I landed at. So I will try not to hold that against you, Rodrigo, and I will try not to hold it against your son and the rest of your family for being Aggies. It's okay. I know a lot of Aggies. I judge all of my Aggie friends for their rings. I tell them I have some friends that I have a guy friend that will forget to wear his wedding ring sometimes, but he will never forget his Aggie ring. His Aggie ring, I'm pretty sure he showers with it. Like it stays on all the time. So breaking down the product a little bit, can you break down a little bit more of the science behind it and then some of the like in practice use of the product as well, Rodrigo?
Yeah. So, I have to admit that we didn't know much about the technology when we started. We knew it modulated behavior. We knew it had some positive effects on the way that and the way that animals behaved after they were treated. But we learned a tremendous amount. We have invested, the last 4 years, we've invested about $4 million in research, in understanding how the product works. Today, we have a very, very good understanding of how the product works, what's the mechanism of action, and what is it delivering in profits to the producers, and what is it delivering in welfare and well-being to the animals. So in essence, what Ferappease is, it's basically an anxiolytic medication for cattle and for pigs. What it does is, just like an anxiety medication for people, what Ferappease is doing is basically decreasing the way that a part of the brain called the hypothalamus reacts to threat information. So as you know, cattle are prey species, and they're wired to survey the environment to look for threatening information. And there are things that we need to do to cattle that are going to be inevitably very stressful. And let's look at weaning as an example, right? So you wank the calves out of the cows. There's resocialization that happens. There's the absence of mom, and there's a lot of drama, and then there's transportation, and then there's regrouping. So we're about to embark in a century-old phenomenon that happens in the U.S. that is the cattle run, right? That all the calves are going to be weaned all over the country, transported from corner to corner. And then, unfortunately, a lot of those cattle are going to get sick and a lot of them are going to die. And the root cause of these health crises that happens around fall with the cattle run is stress. So all the stress that is associated with weaning, transporting, commingling, animals arriving in the stocker facility, animals arriving in the feedlot, their brains are going, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. They're basically saying, I need to get ready for the worst case scenario. And that message is then translated, that lizard brain, that primitive brain that is the hypothalamus, that makes a bunch of changes in their bodies. They're going to go from thriving, which they were when they were back in the ranch with their moms, to surviving. And that shift from thriving to surviving will cause a lot of changes in the immune system, their metabolism, that will make them sick and will make them less productive. So just keep in mind that when they're stressed to that level, their only priority is survival. They need to survive the moment. So the immune system is not important when you're afraid of being eaten by a tiger, or when you're afraid that humans are going to kill you, when you're afraid of going down the highway 75 miles an hour. Like the immune system is secondary. So cortisol, when it's released in the body of these animals, shuts down immune function because it's not needed. Now I've got other priorities. I need to survive the trouble, the pickle that I'm on right now, and the immune system is not part of that priority. But the truth is that being afraid of a truck, being afraid of people, being afraid of each other, that does not lead to better survival. On the contrary, they should be afraid of viruses and bacteria, and they should be, focusing on not getting sick, but they don't know better, right? So what Ferappease does is minimize the activation that is started in the hypothalamus. Basically, it's an anxiety medication. You're going to be exposed to those stressors no matter what. But if you treat them with Ferappease, you're going to decrease, mitigate, minimize the activation of that hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which leads to the release of cortisol and adrenaline. And by reducing cortisol, which, by the way, multiple studies indicate that we reduce cortisol release from 50% to 75% on these high stress animals, we minimize the negative impact that cortisol has on the immune system and in the metabolism. So inevitably, if they're not as stressed, if they're not under the effect of cortisol, their immune systems are going to function better. They're going to behave better. So when they arrive in their end destination, they're going to go to feed, they're going to drink water, and they're going to be much more prepared to fight the challenges, the real challenges, which is, bovine respiratory syncytial virus, which is BVD, IBR, Mayhemia hemolytica, Histophilus somni, Mycoplasma bovis. These are the real threats, and Ferappease prepares them by giving them the ability to maintain a functional immune system during this challenging period of their lives. Not only that, but because stress subtracts a lot from a decrease in dry matter intake, subtracts performance because they're not eating as much, but they're also breaking down their body reserves when they're under stress. So by cutting that off, you're going to allow those animals to eat more, gain more weight, right? Do what we want them to do, which is become healthy, productive animals that are going to return a profit in the end of the day to the producer.
Yeah.
So very long answer to your question, Lauren.
No, I love it. And I find it absolutely fascinating. And it's so cool to be able to have a conversation like this and be able to tie it back to the human aspect of it too, because how that functions in a cow and how it functions in a human is very, very similar. And so it's so fun to be able to sit here and just compare the two and be able to hear the science behind it. And the fact that this feels like an obvious answer, but this is such a new product as well, and something that is still being adopted into the cattle industry and everything like that. Can you break down and explain a little bit more of like some of the real world results that you guys have been seeing with Ferappease and just like the ROI on it and just like the true impact that it's kind of had?
Yep. So let's go over different uses in the industry, right? So let's start with you're weaning your calves in your ranch. We're basically preconditioning your calves. In the South, we call that preconditioning. In the rest of the country, it's just weaning. You're weaning your own calves. We have done several studies, and one very interesting one is just finished in Alberta, Canada, that looked at behavior and weight gain. The other studies have looked at weight gain and health. So you're going to wean your calves in the ranch, and then you're going to treat them with Ferappease. What are the benefits? Well, wean and treat them with Ferappease. You're going to have animals that are going to be much quieter post-weaning. They're not going to walk the fence as much. They're not going to raise as much dust. They're not going to bawl as much, which the wives are going to appreciate that, because usually you wean the calves in the pasture right behind the house. What they will do is they'll go to feed bunk faster and eat. They'll go to water and drink, and they're going to gain more weight. So the results of the trials are unequivocal. Usually a weaned calf will lose between 5 and 10% of their body weight in 7 days post-weaning. They shrink because of stress. They don't drink, they don't eat, they shrink. The Ferappease barely loses any weight in that first week. And then they start gaining weight very fast too. So if you're weaning a calf and then selling that calf 45 to 60 days after weaning, which the industry really should do, because if you're selling calves is all about building a reputation, and reputation pays. When you have a reputation of selling good calves, people are going to pay more for your calves. And if you wean your own calves, you're going to have a reputation of selling good calves, because they are going to be better because they're not as stressed. So what is in it for you? Ferappease costs about $3 to be used at weaning per calf. And what is the return? It's 15 to 25 pounds of live weight, of actual live weight. So if your calves are 500 pounds, and let's say you're getting $4 per pound. And let's look at the lower level, right? It's between 15 and 25. So the worst case scenario, your calves are going to be 15 pounds heavier. 15 times 4, that's 60 bucks. And you spend $3. What's the ROI? 1 to 20. For every dollar in Ferappease, it's going to return you $20 in extra live weight. Remember, we're selling live weight, right? These calves are going to get paid on live weight. So that's the worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario? Is 1 to 40. Let's say if your calves gain 25 pounds more, that's a 1 to 40 hour ROI. So that's an incredibly profitable intervention, really well researched. And if you're weaning your calves without Ferappease, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, plus a lot of headaches, right? Broken fences, bawling, calves walking around. Let's look at a different situation. Now we have 2 situations to consider. These calves are going to go weaned or not weaned. They're usually going to go either to a feedlot, a grow yard, a stocker, a backgrounder. And then we also evaluated treating those animals on arrival. Let's say I'm a stocker and I buy sale barn calves. Most of these calves are going to be what we call ballers. They're going to be non-weaned calves. When you get them to your facility, we're going to split them into treated with Ferappease and not treated with Ferappease. This research has been done. It's published in Journal of Animal Science, and actually have several articles that have been published. And this scenario is even more profitable, because now those calves are going to die, right? You're going to lose between 2% and 10% of those calves, depending on the risk level on those calves. So when we did trials with the highest risk cattle that we could find, these were southeast, intact, unweaned bulls. They were 400 pounds and bought from the deep south and then transported to College Station. And then they were split into groups. Half received Ferappease, half did not receive Ferappease. What were the benefits? Well, we reduced mortality rate by 75%. So what happens is when they get there and they get treated, cortisol levels are lower. They go to feed, they go to water, their immune systems are better. They're going to deal with the disease problems a lot better. And in this particular trial, 10% of the control calves died, and only 1.66% of the treated cattle died. So think about this, right? So if you're buying calves right now, 400 pound times 4.5, it'll be $1,800 per calf that you lost. You can't afford to lose many of these calves, right? So, and we save 7 of these for every 100 treated. That's $12,000, $12,600 per 100 treated. And again, it costs $300 to treat them. So on divided by 300 on every 100, that's a 1 to 42 ROI. So again, the cost of Ferappease is insignificant when you look at the benefit. And this is just looking at mortality. You have fewer animals that got sick. We have fewer animals that became chronic. You have more average daily gain. We followed these animals all the way to the packing plant, and they were 25 pounds heavier live weight before they were shipped to the packing plant. So when you look at the entire life of these animals, the economic benefit is incredible. We also have another use, which is when cattle, when yearlings, so these are heavier steers that have been backgrounded, castrated, they're low risk, right? Usually you don't lose those animals at all. And they're arriving in the feedlots. The finishing yards, 80% of the cattle that they buy, they buy yearlings, that low risk cattle. And that we wanted it to prove to the finishing feedlots that Ferappease is a great intervention. So we did a trial with Texas A&M in bushland near Amarillo, and half of the animals received Ferappease when they arrived in the feedlot. They were 900-pound steers when they got there, and again when they were reimplanted at 1,200 pounds. They were fed for 138 days, both the treated and the controls. In the end, the treated animals were 25 pounds heavier, live weight. There were 16 pounds of hot carcass weight increase in the treated animals. They had significantly more marbling, significantly more yield grade, higher yield grade, and 10 percentage point increase in the number of choice plus carcasses. So Ferappease increased intake, increased weight gain, increased carcass weight, and increased carcass quality. So again, the ROI in that is 1 to 15, because we have $6 in those cattle, 3 on arrival and 3 reimplant. So this is the beef calves, right? Going out of the range, staying in the range, and then arriving in a stocker or going into a finish yard. Those uses are all very well researched. And this is where most of the sales of Ferappease, which this year, again, we're going to sell 15 million doses of Ferappease this year. Most of those doses are going into those industry, the ranching, stocker, backgrounding, and feedlot industry. The feedlot industry, our sales into the feedlot industry this year has grown 400% compared to last year. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Now, there are other minor uses that we can consider, right? So one of them is, I'm not going to wean my calves. I don't have the space. I don't have the facilities. I'm just going to strip and ship, and they're going to go to a sale barn. Well, you should use Ferappease on those calves too, and I'll explain you why. If you take the calves out of their moms and put them directly into a trailer and transport them, even if it's a short haul, let's say 3 or 4 hours into a sale barn, they're going to shrink. And they will shrink because adrenaline and cortisol accelerates GI tract movements. So they want to empty their guts because the blood flows away from the GI tract, and an empty gut is less likely to kill an animal with a septic shock. It's very common that, that's just a consequence of adrenaline. They will defecate more. And that's why your trailer gets so dirty, even in a short haul, is because those animals are under a lot of stress. But that is money that is falling right through the cracks of that trailer. Because if you can keep the animals from shrinking, you're going to get paid in the end. And we have done trials in short hauls, which most of the shrinking is adrenaline related, up to 5 hours, 6 hours of transportation. They will shrink 5% if they're not treated with Ferappease, and 3% if they're treated with Ferappease. So we're basically seeing a 2 percentage point decrease in shrinkage. So if you're transporting 500-pound calves times 0.02, that's 10 pounds of live weight that you're going to get on those calves. Again, if you get $4 per pound, that's $40 for a $3 investment. So that, again, is a 1 to 13 ROI. So even the calves that you think, well, I don't have anything to gain because I'm already going to sell them, you should rethink that, because those animals are going to give you payback on less shrinkage during that transportation period. And another thing that is interesting, Lauren, is we have to use the technology because the technology pays. And that I have no problem with that. Every research that we do, we try to demonstrate a return to the producer, but the industry gains if you treat those cattle, right? You're going to gain your paycheck on the extra 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever, but the buyer is going to get an animal that is less stressed. When it arrives in a feedlot, it's going to surprise the buyer and say, wow, these cattle are great. They're doing great. I've never seen cattle go to feed so fast. I've never seen cattle go to water so fast. They're not getting it sick. That is reputation building right there. So people that have a good reputation in the cattle industry get paid better. That's a fact. Feedlot owners and managers and operators, they know their clients. They know their buyers. They know the people that are selling cattle to them, and they'll pay better money to people that provide them with better cattle. Believe me, they will. So if you do that next year, you're going to get, people are going to bid better for your cattle, or you're going to get a phone call and saying, we did great with your cattle last year. Let's do it again, and I'll pay you better, a little bit above market price for the cattle that you're providing.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I could sit here and listen to you talk about the science and everything about this product all day long and just be enamored by it. It's just so cool what you guys have done in the industry and what you're continuing to do. What's next? What's kind of down the line for you guys? You've talked a little bit more about the R&D facility you've got in College Station, just other things you're doing there. What's down the line for you guys?
Well, we have a pipeline of technologies that we're working on, from vaccines to immune modulators to products that will aid in reproduction, fertility. That is, long-term development plans that we have and development projects that we have. And on a commercial side, Ferappease is still a baby. It's not even a toddler yet. It is a baby. So if you think about the potential for this technology, we haven't really scratched the surface yet. So we have a lot to do with Ferappease in the beef industry, in the cow-calf industry, in feedlots. In the dairy industry, we're getting fantastic data now on the use of product in postpartum cows, calves, dry cows, and so on. And the swine industry is the same thing. We're just getting started. So we're excited for the future, both the future of the Ferappease platform as a technology. We think that we can do exponentially better than we're doing today. I think the industry still have not understood, or they haven't really simulated what Ferappease delivers, because the rate of use is not nearly as high as it should be. We're growing, and I'm happy with growth, and we should pat ourselves in the back and say we're doing a decent job propagating the technology. But I know the potential of the technology, and that's what keeps me working hard, motivated, and on my toes, really, because I know that this technology has a lot to deliver, and that we should do a lot more for it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rodrigo, as we round out the podcast, is there anything else that you would like to leave with our audience today?
No, just I'm very grateful to be able to be part of this amazing industry. I tell people that cattlemen are the best people there is around, and there's something incredible. I'm going to be in 4 different countries visiting with cattle people in the next 3 weeks, and it doesn't matter if they're in Mongolia, in northern China, Inner Mongolia, or Japan, or Brazil, or the U.S. They're all amazing people, and that's the joy of my career, is be able to interact with cattlemen. And I'm very grateful to be able to participate in that industry with this product, and just looking forward to continuing to work and bring innovations and technologies to help them do their jobs, which is very important for all of us.
Yes, wonderful, Rodrigo. Well, thank you so much for your time today, coming on and sharing just your wealth of knowledge that you have and sharing a little bit more. And I am going to make a plug. If you guys, to our listeners out there, I'm going to have a link down below to a video that shows like what Rodrigo was talking about with the comparison between the lots that have been treated and haven't been treated and how they are reacting just live. The videos are fascinating that they have on the impact on this product, and I think that is the best way for you to actually see like the real world example of, hey, this pen has been treated, this pen hasn't, and seeing the direct comparison of how they're reacting to water, if they're running fence lines, what they're doing, because one pen is frankly laying down and resting and the other one is bawling and an absolute mess. So I'll have that link down below for you guys to go check out as well, because I will remember that video for the rest of my life. It is so fascinating. So I'll have that link down below for all of you guys. And I will have all of the other Ferappease links linked down below. If you guys just want to learn more about the science behind this amazing product, I will have all of that down below for you guys to check out. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one, y'all.